What if I told you about a country that had it all and then just lost it? Not once, but over and over again. Yeah, that's what we're talking about today. We're going to try and unravel one of the most fascinating and, frankly, baffling stories in economics, the Argentine paradox.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Go back in time with me. It's 1910. The world is just exploding with trade and new ideas. And who's at the very top of the game? Argentina. And I'm not kidding. No exaggeration here. It was one of the absolute richest countries on the planet.
And when I say rich, I don't mean just kind of well off. We're talking richer than France, richer than Germany. Think about that for a second. It was the place to be. Millions of Europeans packed their bags and headed there, dreaming of a better life, just like they did for the United States. The future, it looked absolutely golden.
All right, now, snap your fingers. Fast forward to today. Wow, the story is completely different. It's a tale of insane triple-digit inflation, crushing massive debt, and this feeling of a permanent crisis that just never ends.
You want one number that tells you everything you need to know? Here it is. 9. 9 times. That's how many times Argentina has defaulted on its debt. Basically told the rest of the world, sorry, we can't pay you back. 9 times. It's just staggering.
So you have to ask, right? How on earth does a country go from being the envy of the world to, well, a textbook example of what not to do? That's the big question. So let's dig in and see what went so wrong. Okay. First things first, before we talk about the crash, we gotta understand the takeoff. Argentina's Gilded Age wealth wasn't an accident. It was built on a really specific foundation. But here's the kicker. That foundation had a huge crack in it right from the start. Back in the early 1900s, Argentina was literally feeding the world. They were the planet's breadbasket. Those huge, fertile plains they have, the pampas, were churning out unbelievable amounts of beef and wheat for Europe. And with that came a flood of people and money. Immigrants, foreign investment, it all poured in. Buenos Aires became this stunning city. People called it the Paris of South America. It really felt like nothing could stop them. But remember that crack in the foundation I mentioned? Well, here it is. The entire massive economy was built on just one thing, farming. They were putting all their eggs in one basket, exporting raw goods. They didn't really build up other industries like manufacturing. So you can guess what happened. When the world changed, think the Great Depression, and nobody was buying as much beef and wheat, that single pillar started to shake, and the whole thing threatened to come crashing down. And that early instability, it opened the door for what is, without a doubt, Argentina's biggest enemy today: inflation. Seriously, to get what's happening now, you have to understand how this crisis machine works. It's a real beast. Okay, so here's the cycle in a nutshell. Step 1, the government consistently spends way more money than it actually has. Step 2, instead of making tough choices, they just tell the central bank to fire up the printing presses and make more pesos. Step 3, you've suddenly got way more money chasing the exact same amount of stuff. What happens? Prices go through the roof and the peso's value just tanks. And this kicks off a really nasty psychological game. Regular Argentinians aren't dumb. They know their money is losing value by the hour. So the second they get paid in pesos, what do? They run to trade it for something stable, usually US dollars. But that just makes the problem worse. All that selling of pesos makes the peso even weaker, which causes more inflation, which kills any remaining trust. It becomes this vicious, self-fulfilling cycle of collapse. So you're probably thinking, if the problem is so obvious, why don't they just fix it? Well, that's where the politics come in. It's a super divided country, and the cure, at least in the short run, often feels a lot worse than the disease. Imagine a political pendulum swinging wildly from one extreme to the other. That's Argentina. One government comes in, usually more left-wing, and ramps up spending on social programs and subsidies to help people out. But that blows up the deficit. So then the pendulum swings back, and a more right-wing government gets elected, promising to slash spending and bring in tough free market reforms. This policy whiplash, back and forth, it creates total chaos. No one knows what's coming next, and that is absolute poison for an economy. And sooner or later, the country hits a wall. The government literally runs out of money to pay its international bills. And that's when they have to make the call. They hit the big red emergency button that connects them to the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. Basically, the world's economic emergency room. But here's the thing about the IMF. They don't just hand over a blank check. The money comes with strings attached, big ones. They demand harsh reforms, what's called austerity. We're talking deep cuts to government spending, getting rid of subsidies on things like gas and buses, and raising taxes. For the average person, this stuff hurts. And it almost always leads to massive protests, makes the government super unpopular. And, yep, it sets the stage for that political pendulum to swing right back to the other side.
Think about it this way. Imagine you have a friend who's borrowed money from you and failed to pay you back 9 times. Would you lend the money a 10th time? Probably not, right? Well, that's Argentina in the world of global finance. No one trusts them, so getting new loans is either impossible or comes with insane interest rates. This leaves them with 2 bad options. Go back to the IMF or fire up the money printer again.
So you see how it all connects. You've got the shaky foundation, the out-of-control inflation spiral, and the wild political swings. It all locks together to create this pattern, this endless loop. And the million-dollar question is there any way out?
Let's just walk through the loop one more time because it's so important. It starts with overspending. That leads to printing money, which creates massive inflation. The currency collapses, so they have to go to the IMF for a bailout. The IMF demands painful cuts, which leads to a huge political backlash. A new government sweeps in, promising to reverse everything, and boom, you're right back at the beginning, ready to start the whole crazy ride over again.
And this is maybe the most important takeaway of all. The real crisis in Argentina isn't just about economics. It's not just about numbers on a spreadsheet. It's a complete and total breakdown of trust. People don't trust the peso. They don't trust the banks. They don't trust their own government. And the rest of the world doesn't trust them to pay their bills. That lack of trust poisons everything.
You know, the truly tragic part of this whole story is that Argentina should be a global powerhouse. It's not a country that lacks resources. It has everything. Abundant natural resources, a smart, educated population, a great location. All of this incredible potential is just sitting there, completely trapped by this never-ending cycle of crisis. And that brings us right up to today. We're seeing a new attempt at radical shock therapy, a real effort to just smash this cycle once and for all. But the question is, will it work? Can they finally break free? Or are we just watching the prelude to the 10th time this exact same story plays out? Honestly, nobody knows for sure.